Hello and welcome to the first session of the Content Marketing Fundamentals course with Luann Wise. My name is Kasia Wajdes and I'll be your moderator today. Before we start, there's just a couple of housekeeping items. First is that this session is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording and to the slides in a follow-up email. We usually send that email like either today or the next day after the session. So you'll be able to review the presentation and review the whole recording at your convenience. And also in the follow-up email, there will be a link to a page with resources that Luann has created for you. So any kind of like tools or websites that she mentions during the presentations, this all will be links from that page. And the next thing is that we always like to make these sessions interactive, so we encourage you all to ask questions. There is, if you look at your GoToWebinar panel, there is a module called questions, so you can open it and just start typing your questions there. And Luann will be answering questions as we go through the presentation, and also we will set some time at the end of the presentation, after the presentation, at the end of the webinar, to answer as many questions as we can. And that's it from me today. Luann, I'm handing it off to you.
Thanks, Kasia. Okay. American entrepreneur and author Seth Godin says content marketing is the only marketing that's left. By this, he means that we should only be creating content that our audience cares about, content that they want to read, watch, and listen to, content that they want to engage or interact with, content that creates a connection with you and your business, a relationship. Buying advertising space doesn't do that. Educating, inspiring, and entertaining people with content does. It builds trust. It's not about you, it's about them, the customer. Customers are at the heart of your business, no matter what size it is. My name is Luann Wise, and at the beginning of the summer, Co-Founders Lab contacted me to ask me to prepare this course for you. They found me through my online content. And why am I a good fit for this course? Well, I've been planning and creating content for over 15 years in agency, client-side and consultancy roles. I've run million-pound accounts within advertising agencies, and in my in-house marketing role, I helped them grow from £3 to £60 million turnover in just 5 years. I've created content for websites, print, radio, outdoor, and I've run my own consultancy business for 6 years. I help clients, and I do all of this stuff for my own business. So in this course, I'm sharing my own experiences, and I'm sharing insight from all the content that I consume. Over the 3 sessions, my commitment to you is that I'm going to teach you what you need to know about content marketing. That's the title of today's session. I will show you how to use content marketing to amplify your brand presence. That's next week. And in the 3rd week, I will show you how to use content marketing to bring new users to your website. So in this first session, the introduction to content marketing, we're going to cover over the next 45, 60 minutes plus time for questions. We're going to talk about what is content marketing. I'm going to talk about the benefits, the challenges, and we're going to talk about what does content marketing success look like. I'll talk about different types of content, creating versus curating content, that should say. And as Kasia said, this session is being recorded, you'll get a copy of it, and there's lots of resources that you'll be able to access and download afterwards to help you with your content marketing. But first, a poll. So, as we said, we like to make this interactive, and we'd like to know where you're at with your content marketing right now. Kasia is going to start the poll in just a second, but I'm using the options provided in a form on the Content Marketing Institute website because I thought they were useful. I want to know, how would you best describe the stage you're at with content marketing right now? Are you taking your first steps? Are you going through growing pains? Have you reached that teenager, adolescent stage? Or are you finding success? You're still challenged, but you're reaching maturity. If we could just spend a couple of minutes and let me know where you're at right now, that would be really useful.
Yes, so the poll is launched, and I see the answers are coming in. We'll just give you all a minute, another minute to answer the question. And the answers are still trickling in. All right, I think that everybody who wanted to answer the question already did so, so I'm just going to close the poll now, and we'll see the results in a moment. And you should see the results of the poll on your screen right now.
Okay, so 75% of you, and there's a lot of you on the call right now, are at your first step. So that's great. Over these 3 sessions, we'll take you through 16% growing pains and 10% of you as a teenager. So hopefully there's going to be lots of tips for most of you to take away. And if you've been doing content marketing for a while, hopefully there's some lessons learned and some other tips for you in here too. Can we go back to the slides?
And we should, the poll is hidden now, and we are sharing your screen now. I cannot see your presentation, Luann, but I think I can see your computer.
Yeah. Where's the slide deck gone?
Just give us a moment here, please, while there we go. There is the poll slide, so we can continue from here.
Okay. So the first part of the agenda, let's start at the beginning with what is content marketing? According to the Content Marketing Institute, content marketing is a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience and ultimately drive profitable customer action. That's quite a long definition, but it's a great one because it helps frame the goals of content marketing. Let's break it down. By content, we simply mean words and images. Words that may be written or spoken, images that may be still or moving. It's the newsletters you read, the conferences you attend, the video tutorials that you watch. And we'll be talking more about the different types of content later on. Marketing with content is a powerful and cost-effective route to business development. There are many benefits, which we'll come on to shortly, and there are of course challenges, which we'll also address. But back to this definition. We're packaging up those words and images into a useful format to attract and retain a clearly defined audience. That's going to include customers, it will include prospective customers, it will also include other stakeholders inside and outside your organisation, plus influencers. And we'll be talking about influencers in the next session. And audiences. I'm not going to talk about defining your target audience or creating personas in this course. I'm going to assume that you have that information or that you know you should be gathering it. But this audience, they're searching. They're asking friends, family, colleagues, peers. They're asking for referrals and recommendations. We all do it. We all look at reviews. We do research, which means we're 60–70% of our way through making a decision before we ever contact the business we might buy a product or service from. And this is why content is so important, and it's why we need to market that content effectively. It drives business, and that's why it's a strategic approach. It's not a strategy. Creating and distributing content is tactical. But the reason for a piece of content must be strategic. It must have a purpose. And we'll talk a bit more about success with content marketing shortly. Let's finish with this definition of what is content marketing. The Content Marketing Institute summarizes the concept. Basically, content marketing is the art of communicating with your customers and prospects without selling. It's non-interruption marketing. Instead of pitching your products or services, you are delivering information that makes your buyer more intelligent. If we as businesses deliver consistent, ongoing, valuable information to buyers, they ultimately reward us with their business and loyalty. So the benefits of content marketing. Traditional marketing is about buying attention. Content marketing is earning attention, telling people you're a rock star versus showing people you're a rock star. Content marketing helps you become visible. It creates awareness. When people are researching, you need to have content that answers those search queries. You need to appear high up in search results and look interesting enough to get a click through. Now, in the third session, we will be talking about how to use content marketing to drive traffic to your website. And the benefits of content marketing is this isn't about buying advertising space, which kind of makes it more cost effective. It's not free, it does require resources, but it doesn't need to involve big budgets. Content also helps drive traffic to your website, the space that you own and the place where you can most effectively measure your success. Not only does content grab attention, it maintains it. Good content attracts people and keeps them interested. It's for educating, entertaining, and inspiring. Good content sticks. It creates a connection. So people do business with people. People they know, like, and trust. We don't do business with logos. Content helps achieve that level of trust. Information is valuable. And good, valuable content can help build the thought leadership position we're all striving for. It's not about selling, as we saw from the definition. It's about being helpful. It's an opportunity to demonstrate your expertise and become that go-to person in your niche. Thought leadership educates. It pulls customers to you. By providing best practices, case studies, guides, etc., they're all examples of thought leadership. And the challenges of content marketing. Content marketing is complex. It can be overwhelming. I've read a lot of information to put this slide deck together for you, and there's a lot out there, there's a lot being said. And creating content doesn't come easy, but we've just talked about the benefits it can bring to our business, so it's worth getting involved. We need to get involved with this. There are challenges around resources. That difference between telling people you're a rock star and showing people you're a rock star, there's no shortcut. Money can't buy everything. Content marketing attention is earned, and the main resource requirement is time. Thinking time, planning time, creating time. The thinking and planning are all about deciding what content to create, and we'll talk more about that later, and hopefully you'll get some tips to make that easier. Build it and they will come doesn't happen. You've got to distribute your content. You've got to market your content. You need to help your audience find it, and it needs to break through everything else that they're seeing or hearing. This morning I was reading a B2B marketing report highlighting the challenge of differentiation in content. The report confirmed this was down to not using those audience personas and not using data to inform the content. I'll include a link for you to that report in the resources because it's worth a quick read. And then there's measurement, getting a return on investment for the resources that you allocate. Again, we'll talk about that more when we talk about success. And my advice to overcome these challenges is think less is more. Start small and build. Give yourself time, don't spread yourself too thinly. Focus on quality over quantity, and consistency is really important too. You need to manage the expectations of your audience and manage your own resources. So your content production should be regular, and if that's once a day, once a week, once a month, it's whatever works for you and your resources. So time for another poll. I'd like to know which of these content marketing challenges worries you most, and if there are others, pop them in that chat box and we can discuss them later. And I might even create a piece of content around all those challenges for you afterwards. So back to Kezia for a quick poll.
Yes, and you should have the poll on your screens right now. Just click on the answer that fits fits most with your answer, and we'll leave it on for a minute here to give everybody a chance to answer. We have some participants typing in other answers. I fail most often with consistency. Another answer is cost.
ROI is return on investment.
Another answer is my biggest challenge is specifically how to differentiation. Is that something missing here? Another challenge is finding or making the time and being consistent over a period of time.
Yeah, someone's put what service providers to use as content resources. I will come on to that in a bit.
Okay, I think we can close the poll on the screen so we can all see the results. We should be able to see results now.
Okay, so what content to create, and other people typing the chat window, the biggest one coming through there is consistency. So we'll hopefully cover those a bit later on, but we'll also talk about them throughout the course in the second and third sessions as well. Okay, I guess I need to put the slides back now.
Yes, we are back to slides now.
Okay. So let's talk about success. So it's quite good to know what our challenges are, then think about success, and then we'll talk a bit more about how to do this content marketing stuff. So I really like this quote. Stephen Covey, author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, says, begin with the end in mind. Know what success looks like before you start. I've often had conversations with people about their marketing to hear it's not working. I ask them what that means. What did they expect? And they can't answer. So if you don't know what you want to achieve, you can't focus on making it work, and you can't measure that. So we have to start with the end in mind. Content marketing is an investment. Planning, creating, distributing, you're going to want to see a return on that. So every piece of content you create needs to have a clear purpose. It needs to fit with your business strategy, meeting your needs as well as the needs of your audience. We mentioned earlier that ROI, return on investment, is one of the biggest challenges of content marketing, and maybe because many of you are still at the first step stage, you haven't quite got to that challenge yet. But if you establish your measurements before you create anything, you'll know what's working for you. You'll be able to measure your success. Now, goals for content marketing can include awareness. They can include lead generation, customer acquisition, and customer retention. If your goal is awareness, then you could be looking at measuring social media shares and the growth in followers on your social media accounts. You could also be measuring the number of visitors to your website and data around what they do on your website once they're there. For lead generation, you could be measuring the number of downloads from your website, which hopefully will be capturing data. This could be about sign-ups to your email newsletter. And when you send that email newsletter, you could be measuring opens, click-throughs, unsubscribe rates, etc. I do a lot of work around events, so sharing content around getting event attendees could be an objective, and it's relatively easy to measure. Think about what you want to achieve and how you're going to measure it, then work that into your content piece as you create it. Make sure your audience know what they need to do next. Later on, you can measure and then learn what you need to do what you need to repeat, or perhaps change for that next piece of content to improve it. There's no start and end to content marketing. It can't really be just a one-off. It's an ongoing process, and it can take a few months to start seeing success. My biggest piece of advice would be not to get lost in measurement. There's so much data available, but focus on what matters to your business. That's why this is strategic, because it started at the business level. If you see a metric and you know what it means and what action you might need to take, it matters. There are so many vanity metrics out there, like how many people like your Facebook page or how many followers you've got. Yes, these can be interesting, and reach is a measure of success, but it's not the only measure of success. They're stepping stones to help you get to a measurement that matters. But work it all out first, know why you're doing content marketing, not afterwards when you're trying to write some reports. So, different types of content. There are 4 different types of content that you can create. There's written, for example, your blogs, white papers, guides, checklists, reports, presentations, ebooks and books. This list is probably overwhelming by itself, but some of these will be right for your business, some of them may not be right for your business. We will see in the next session, I'll be talking about content and the buyer journey. So different types of content are right for your business and for your audiences at different times. We've got visual content, product imagery, team photography and infographics. We've got audio and video, event coverage, demonstrations, interviews, webinars and podcasts. You know, video is really hot right now, and judging by the numbers I can see in this session, I think webinars are too. And we've also got interactive content. That's quizzes, calculators, polls, games and competitions. Think about your different types of content, and one of the exercises in the homework that you might like to do is to actually look at your existing content and which type of content you're producing. As I said, I briefly mentioned the buying decision process. In the early stages of the decision process, an infographic or a video might be really useful for your target audience as they're gathering information, as they're searching. Longer form written content such as white papers and ebooks are most likely to be read further down that decision-making process when people need more information. If you know your audience, you will know what type of content is right for you. When you start to think about it, yeah, there are so many different types of content, and you can create multiple types of content from just one idea. We call that repurposing. So as an example, from this presentation, I could create an infographic, I could create a video, I can produce this as a slide deck. There's lots of different ways of cutting one idea without feeling too overwhelmed. I'm just going to have a quick look at the questions coming through in case there's anything I need to answer right now. Okay, we'll come back to those in the Q&A. So let's think about creating content. I love this quote. I'm a big fan of using quotes, and I really like this, and I've included a link to this book in the resource notes, and there's actually, I spotted a new edition of the book coming out in the next couple of weeks. Now this quote is, you can buy attention, which is advertising. You can beg for attention from the media, which is our traditional PR. You can bug people one at a time to get attention, that's traditional sales. Or you can earn attention by creating something interesting and valuable and then publishing it online. There's really no doubt that budgets have shifted from traditional marketing and advertising to content. Now, the content you create for your target audience can be time related, that's in the moment content, such as news articles and latest trend reports. There's always something going on that might be relevant for you and your business. Or you can think about creating evergreen content. That's content that's continually relevant and it doesn't become dated. You may need a mix. It depends on what your business is and how you might need to create it and the resources you've got. Both have their value in terms of demonstrating your knowledge and your expertise, and both have their value for creating customer engagement and driving traffic to your website. Some timely content can be pre-planned, for example, seasonal themes, calendar dates, or national awareness days. For other time-related content, you'll need to monitor what's trending and be ready to create content if you can find an angle that's relevant to your business. But please only take on trending topics if they're relevant. There's been too many stories of trends jacking that have backfired. And by that I mean when there's been celebrity deaths or weather situations that some brands have tried to hijack that with campaigns, and it has really been in quite poor taste. So sources to generate content ideas. This seemed to be a challenge that a few people had about where to get ideas from, but hopefully now you're starting to think about content marketing and what you want to achieve and that it fits into your business strategy, and you're focusing on your audience. Well, when you know what you're looking for, you'll find it. There's so many sources for generating content ideas. Remember, you're creating content to educate, entertain, and/or inspire. You're creating content to get found and to help make decisions. So one of the best places to start is with your frequently asked questions. Think about all the questions you get asked and create a piece of content to answer them. Watch, read, follow, ask everyone that has a role to play in your business. This can't be a one-person task. You need to engage with your colleagues and peers. You do need to be looking at what your competitors are doing. You do need to be asking your customers. You need to be looking within your organisation as well as outside to industry experts and analysts. What's going on in your industry? What are your partner agencies up to? And as I said, what's trending? But before you go ahead with creating content, which I'm not sure if this is inspiring you or worrying you even more, it's important to take some time to audit what you've already got and how it's performing. You might be surprised at how much you have. And when you do that audit, you'll also find it easier to spot the gaps as you're spending time reviewing it. And in the follow-up resources, I've included a guide to auditing your content to take you through that process. And so honestly, in no time you'll have a list, you'll have some ideas, and your challenge will be around the production and probably consistency, as people said, rather than the wondering what to create. We'll also talk in the Q&A. I'm no doubt that someone will ask me about managing in-house or outsourcing the process. But it's important to remember that you don't need to create everything, and this might help with your consistency problems. When you're sharing content, it doesn't all need to be original, it doesn't all need to be yours. You can share content that other people have created, and that also says something about you. It shows what you're reading. It shows that you're well versed in your subject area. I follow many people who curate content for specific areas, so I know that I don't have to. I know who my go-to experts are in specific subject areas, and that's what you can become. As a guideline, up to 2/3 of your content that you're sharing could be curated. So how do we curate that content? I can see some questions coming through, but I will come back to them. So curating your content is actually fairly easy once you know the tools to do it. The easy way to explain it is it's kind of like setting up a museum or an art gallery. You're pulling together pieces that go together for a target audience. And there's a great benefit to curating the content. So you might not always be curating it to share, but it's going to educate, entertain, and inspire you as well. You'll learn what others in your industry are doing, what your competitors are up to. That's how you'll find all the content you need. And the ways to make this easy are using Google Alerts, using RSS feeds, which goes into a reader, and monitoring hashtags. Now, I didn't want to do live demos of these because I didn't quite know where everyone would be with their content marketing, but there is a step-by-step guide in the resources to how to set up Google Alerts and how to set up and use Feedly for news sources coming into your business all of the time. I wanted to finish the slides today by highlighting just one company, HubSpot. HubSpot is a marketing automation software company, and they're absolutely killing it when it comes to content marketing. They're a really large organization, but since their software is all about inbound marketing, it's great to see that they practice what they preach. I've just mentioned the term inbound marketing, and we'll be looking at that in the next session around the difference between inbound and outbound. If you're a marketer searching for information, chances are some HubSpot content will appear. It's not only great content, and you can see how they're capturing data from you as you request it. The process is really slick. They've even produced a piece of content called How HubSpot Does Inbound. And in it they share how they've created a content culture. They bring people into their organization who can create content. They encourage every employee to create content, and they reward authors when a piece of content performs particularly well. There's that competitive element in there. And they enable success throughout the whole organization. It's not just marketing that are responsible for this activity. And when you start looking for examples of good content marketing, you can find them. From Red Bull, who hardly ever talk about their drink product, but you know that it gives you wings, to healthcare companies, financial services, and supermarkets who are telling stories around their products. It's not about selling their products. And in the next session, we'll be talking about branding and individuals and how they use their content to build that personal brand and to tell their story. So we have covered quite a lot already, and I knew that there would be a lot of questions, so I'm just going to start having a look through those and start answering some of them for you. While I'm having a look, I know that the first question around the challenges was to do with consistency. And my marketing background is that I am a planner. I write lists, I do spend lots of time on the thinking and planning and coming up with the ideas, and then it's about creating a schedule. It's creating that editorial calendar that you put into your diary, and it has to become a habit just as much as checking your email inbox is, or turning up on time for webinars and going to meetings. The important thing in consistency is actually that you set it in a way that you can deal with it, that you can manage it yourself, and as I said earlier on, you don't try and do too much. If blogging once a month works for you, then blog once a month, but do it consistently. If you've got into that pattern and you can go to once a fortnight, then move it to once a fortnight. Don't try and be too ambitious from the start and say that you're going to do it weekly if you know that that's going to be really tough. But if you spend some time thinking and planning and coming up with the ideas, you may have an ideas session, which is part of the content audit process. That actually means you've got your ideas for the next 6 months or 12 months, and then it is just a case of finding that time in your diary to make it happen. Let me just have a look through these questions. So someone's asked, what are we talking about in terms of content? Is it just for our website or social media? This is broad. Content marketing isn't just online. It isn't just about social media. As I said, it's a tactic. So you have a business strategy. Content marketing will be your tactic. Then you think about the channels where you want to distribute that content. That should be on your website because you own it. It may be on social media, and you shouldn't be using all the platforms because that's, again, far too much to deal with. You should be using the platforms where your target audience are, and you're using social media to distribute the content, distribute links to drive them back to your website. And content can include blogs. That was one of the written forms. That may be on your own website, it may be on LinkedIn publishing, or it may be guest blogs on other third-party websites. It depends on your plan and your requirements, but as you do the content audit, that may help you as well. Someone's asked about IP, intellectual property, when curating content. Now, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not giving legal advice, but the curating the content and the tools that I've suggested, such as Google Alerts and Feedly, means that it's pulling in content that's publicly available. It's on the web, it's online, so it's there, but I would recommend that when you are sharing, that you give acknowledgement to the source of your content. So we've all seen in tweets, you know, great article from, and then you mention the author of the content. So if the information is publicly available, it's there to be shared, but it's always best practice to acknowledge the source, and actually that creates a conversation. So it's a good thing to do. Someone's come into the session late and missed the definition of content marketing. You'll get all of the slide deck and the recording and the resources afterwards, so you can catch up on that. So more questions around content curation, and I guess this is just gathering together other people's content, and the reason to use alerts and an RSS feed is that it makes life easy. It means that you don't need to be subscribed to 101 email newsletters. You don't need to go and visit a whole long list of websites all day, every day to see what the news is. If you know your target audience and you know your business, you can set up these tools to deliver to your inbox or to your reader information around keywords, or which could be people's names or brand names or product names. It's about gathering information to give you insight, but also to gather information that you will share with your audience, because particularly with social media, we don't need to be me. This is about sharing, it's about gathering ideas. So you don't need to create every single thing that you share online, and you might want to reference articles and pieces of research. So curation is the way of finding that information quickly and easily and having it coming to you within one tool, rather than you having to go and find it all of the time. I hope that helps, but if you read the guides to Google Alerts and Feedly, it probably will make more sense once you start using it. Does it matter if you are sharing content that is also being shared by others? Does the content need to be unique? Now, there are some very popular websites producing a lot of content, and you do see that content gets shared a lot, and that's great. You probably, you know, the question and the challenge early on about differentiation, which is a report that I'm going to include in the resources. You don't need to be sharing everything that everyone else does, because your audience, which will be very similar, will get bored. So I would pick out what's most relevant for you. You don't need to share everything on a topic. You need to be selective, and you need to know what's relevant. if I was sharing competitors' content or content about a topic, I would read it very carefully before I shared it, because I would want to see what their call to action was or what their opinions are before I consider putting that in front of my target audience. I also wouldn't share the really popular content that comes out every day or every week, because I know that everyone else will either be reading it for themselves or they can get that elsewhere, and I'd like my content to just be a little bit more unique and more carefully curated than mass information. So it's your call, but if you're doing your content audit and you're looking at what your competitors are doing, it's about finding the gap for you to fill, and that's how you will differentiate yourselves from the others. Where do you place your content? If this is about me and my business, then in particular, I use my website because I own my website. So all of my content will always go on my own website first. I will then link to it from social media platforms that I use, whether that's LinkedIn, Twitter, primarily, sometimes my Facebook page. It depends what the content is as to where I place it. But I will also always be looking for other opportunities where I know my target audience are, to guest blog and to write articles on someone else's platform that is a good fit for me, that will get my name out there and awareness out there and hopefully drive traffic back to my website at a later point in time. Just having a look through these. Someone said I can write books and I can write talks, but I go blank when I think about social media content, and that's the problem with consistency. Now, for me, this comes back to planning and having a plan around your audience and what they need to know, what information they're searching for throughout their buying decision process. If they're right at the beginning or further down the line, what information do they need to know and how can you help? It also comes back to knowing your business and your storytelling and what kind of messages you want to be sharing. And in the next session, we'll be talking about storytelling, and my personal process of creating a social media or any marketing plan is to have 4 or 5 key messages about my business, about my industry, about my subject areas, so that almost becomes a checklist of information and things that I will talk about on social media. As I said earlier, when you're looking for ideas, actually, if you've got in mind, if you know what you're looking for, then the ideas come. And if you spend time planning and writing the ideas in one session and then putting them into your editorial calendar, again, it gets easier. And it really is just about creating that habit of knowing that you need to do it. And if you're writing about books and writing talks, then you've learned how to do that, and this is just a different format to get into the habit of doing. Lots of consistency questions. With consistency, the challenge is predicting progress that will merit updating. So the content audit that I'm recommending that you do after the session, that's not just a one-off. That's something to repeat regularly, maybe even once a quarter. Go back to, and when you're auditing your content and keeping a record of your content assets, then it's about knowing whether you'll need to update that or not at a later point in time. And as you're planning your content in the beginning, consider whether it is evergreen and truly evergreen, or whether it is something that's time related and you might need to go back to. So again, it's part of the planning process. So just having a look. How important do I think a blog is? I don't have one and keep wondering if I should. The benefits of blogging are mainly because it helps it's fresh content, it's something to say, it's something to promote, it's something to share. But if you don't know what to say, and you don't think it's relevant for your target audience, then you don't need to do it. You don't need to do everything. You don't have time to do everything, and it may be that at a different stage in your business it becomes more relevant. So this question often comes about in social media about the best time to post and what to say, and it's almost like if you understand your target audience and you know what they want to hear, if you've got something to say, say it. If not, don't force it. You don't have to do this, but a blog is just one form of content. You're writing emails, you're sending letters, you're having conversations, you're writing documents. So don't stress about it, and just consider your target audience and your own business objectives before you pick a type of content that you might want to use. Okay, so someone has picked up on the question that I thought would come up, and that's about outsourcing. What's my vision for outsourcing content marketing? Is it a no-go, or can it be done? What's my opinion on it? So I think who produces your content is less important than what the content is and how it connects to your target market. Content, copywriting is only part of it. It's not a one-person task. So you can outsource, you can insource, you could outsource the audit, you could get help with that. You could get support with the plan, you could get someone to come in and facilitate it. But I think the most important part of any marketing planning, or particularly content marketing, is that you still need to own it, because the content is about your business goals and your target audience. So certainly get some help if you don't have the in-house resource, but own it, plan it, measure it, and make sure that anyone that is involved understands the objectives and what success looks like. Still going through these. Are we still on the slide that says HubSpot? Yeah, we're doing some Q&A. Someone that connected with me on LinkedIn earlier today asking a question about LinkedIn. LinkedIn, is it worth posting in groups anymore? So this is about content distribution. So this is once you've got some content, where should you post it? Now, LinkedIn is a business-to-business platform. As you saw earlier on when I did my intro slide, I produce content for LinkedIn. I'm one of their online course creators. So I am a fan of LinkedIn. What I'm not a fan of is that people spam the groups and forget that groups are about having a conversation and a discussion. Now, content distribution should be about more than just posting a link to a blog or a link to a page on a website and then disappearing. Groups can be really worthwhile if you find the right group that's been created for the right reason, that is managed properly and has the right people in the group, but then don't just post a piece of content as a link and run away again. Groups are for engaging in discussions. You need to put some context around your content to get engagement on it. Otherwise, it's just like running into a room, sticking a presentation under someone's nose and leaving again. So there's millions of groups on LinkedIn. I think there are some very good groups out there. It's just mining your way through it to find really just 3 or 4 that work for you, work for your business, and then I do think it is worth it, but stick with it, but do that planning side of it first. How much content is enough? Back to your business strategy, your objectives, what you're trying to achieve, where your business is in its own life cycle and stage. And if you have something important to say that's relevant to your business goals and your target audience, then that's how you're going to get your own balance. All of this is completely down to your own business, There's no specific rights or wrongs. It's what is right for you, what works for you, what you have the resources to manage, and what's going to get the results that your business needs. Someone's asked to talk a bit more about tracking ROI and best practices. Now, ROI is always a bit of one of those deer in the headlights reactions by marketers sometimes, and there's so much data out there. I think in terms of ROI, it should be about return on objectives. So if you've set your objectives and you know what you want to achieve, you've had your end in mind, then your measurement should be against those objectives. But in terms of content marketing ROI, and I'll add this to the resources, there is an excellent LinkedIn Learning course specifically on content marketing ROI. Now, if you don't have a subscription to LinkedIn Learning or lynda.com, then I'll also include in there a free 30-day trial so that you can watch that course. Is there a way to, this is an RSS feed question, is there a way to narrow or tailor the feeds that are coming in? And this is kind of the and, not, or. Yep, you can completely tailor that, you can refine it down, you can exclude certain words and phrases, just as you would in kind of normal Google search, using and, or not. Sometimes you have to go wide to see what content comes in and then reduce it, but you can actually get it down to be quite tight and specific once you play around with it. But again, if you plan beforehand what you need to find out, then setting all of those feeds up will be also a lot clearer as well. I honestly couldn't live without Google alerts coming in or my Feedly resources. Whenever I start work with a new client, I immediately set up key stakeholder names, their product and brand names, the product and brand names for all of their competitors. And the great thing within Feedly is that you can have everything categorized into nice folders so you can see what's coming in and it doesn't get lost in your inbox. A lot of people asking around etiquette around permissions and sharing content, so I'm going to check on the details of those and include those in the resource notes, and we'll have a look at that again next week when we're talking about branding. Okay, so we are coming up to 8 o'clock in the UK, so I'm just going to have a look at the next slides, and then I'll come back to a couple more questions. So just to confirm what we've covered today, and it has been quite a lot in this hour, we've talked about what is content marketing, we've talked about the benefits of content marketing, the challenges, what success looks like, and that's measuring the return on investment, different types of content, and creating versus curating, that should say, the content. Lots of resources you're going to need afterwards and lots of things to pick up before next week, but we will cover all of these questions that you are asking. The homework, if you want to do homework between the sessions or after the course, there's 3 things that I would recommend you do as your next steps. And that's to audit your existing content, to decide what success looks like for you, and to set up that content curation feed. Now, the link at the top here, and you'll get a copy of these slides in the recording. If you go to my website, luannwise.co.uk/content-marketing-fundamentals, you'll be able to download all these guides and everything that I've talked about today. Just trying. And in next week's session, so each of the 3 sessions are different. In next week's session specifically, we're going to be talking about how to use content marketing to amplify your brand. We'll be talking about what we mean by branding, about creating your brand, which is your storytelling, knowing your customers, content marketing in the buyer's journey, and finding your influencers, one of your key stakeholder groups. So if everyone's got time, it's almost 8 o'clock in the UK. I'm just going to click through on a couple more questions, if that's okay, Kezia.
Yes, of course.
There's lots coming in. Some quite detailed questions coming in as well, so I will provide some more resources. So, how important is word count for writing blog posts? It is important. Google likes words to pick up on. Google needs something to, grab hold of to know what the piece is about, so that when someone asks a question, it can serve it. There's lots of different arguments between long form posts, which could be 400 to 600 words, versus some really quite long articles now of a couple of thousand words. I think the most important thing is you know what the question is. It's answering a query that your customer will be looking for, and you write as much as you need to write. If it becomes too long, then it becomes another blog post. Try and keep each piece of content quite focused on one topic. But again, no rights or wrongs. There are lots of guidelines out there, but it's about what you need to achieve for your business. Let me just answer a couple more. There's lots of thank yous in here, so thank you. Could I please show again my website and the link? There it is. Oh, it's disappearing.
And we will send we will include this link in the follow-up email with the link to the recording and the slides, so you don't have to make sure that you write it down right now. The link will be included in the email.
Yeah. Okay, I think most of the message coming through now are thank you messages. So we will download all these questions, make sure that the resources are covered, and I will create some content to make sure that all of these are answered before next week's session. Back to you, Kezia.
Luann, great job, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today. For those of you on the line, if you got value from the session and you would like to get access to other expert-led courses, we have the premium membership for you that you can join and which will give you access. I'm launching a poll here. It's just a very quick poll. If you would like to receive more information about our premium membership, please click yes, and we'll include it in the follow-up email. So in addition to access to courses, the premium membership will also give you free access to our virtual accelerator and lots of perks related to your Co-Founders Lab membership, like direct messaging, advanced search tools, analytics, and our partner packs. Basically, this is like the full entrepreneurial toolkit at your fingertips. So if you're interested, click yes. I'm going to close the poll right now. And thank you all so much for participating, Luann. Thank you again for sharing your knowledge with us today. And everyone, we'll see you next week. The next session will be on Wednesday, not on Thursday, on Wednesday next week. And have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.